Hey everybody, it's time for GMG In The Raw Live. Grab your favorite beverage of choice and join us as we discuss the Minnesota Vikings. Feel free to add in your comments and we'll talk about them on air. GMG In The Raw Live is about to start. Look at the countdown timer. Once it hits 0, we're starting with the best Vikings post-game show out there. Type in your questions, your comments. We'll talk about them. Played, you know what that means. It's time. Skol. Vikings versus Buccaneers. GMG In The Raw. And here we go with Good Morning Gallahorn in the Raw. After the game, your Minnesota Vikings go down to Tampa and lose 26-14. And we're here to talk about it, and you're here to join us. Hey, how about that? But first, on the viewers' right up here on the top, the one, the only, Mr. Ted Glover.
How we doing, boys? How's that better? I'm against the wall. Let's light this candle. Let's go.
Below me, the incomparable, the fantastic, Mr. Flip.
We only play this music after wins. We don't need to play this music. This is the best part of my Sunday is doing this podcast with the three of y'all doing this live show. It definitely wasn't that game. Freddie Hall's angry. I am too, Freddie.
Oh, there's a lot. Yes, and Freddie joins us along with quite a few others, Clifford and Ted, and he's living. But last and certainly not least, we have the man who watches it on zero, probably the smartest among us, the base ripper, Mr. Drew Bunting.
What up, gentlemen?
Hey.
And certainly not smarter than anybody on this panel, I know that.
Ooh,
you guys are all knowledgeable.
Got some damn
How's that whiskey pouring there, Flip? We got Flip whiskey.
Oh, dude.
We got Ted Glover. We're in the beautiful Tommy Kramer jersey. Let's see that baby. Let's see it.
Yo, this is the bottom
There we
of the
go.
this is the bottom of the bottle right
There
here,
we
baby.
go.
We finishing it.
There we
We are
go.
finishing the
Second greatest
bottle on this
quarterback. Look
show
at
right
that.
now.
That thing's signed even. He signed
Yeah.
jersey. We got flip and we got a loss. What up,
I
gentlemen?
take it out of the
How's your
closet on
Sunday
game day
going?
and I hang it right back up. I eat no food. I only drink beer. We're good.
It's beautiful, dude. Beautiful.
It can never be washed. I can't ever wash it, or I'm going to have to send it back to Tommy and have him sign it for me.
I doubt you got a Dan Bailey one, right?
No. Well, if I did, I'd be using it to start a fire in my fire pit out back tonight.
You would.
Wow. Just wow.
First impressions, Ted? Other than burning Dan Bailey jerseys?
You know, Drew mentioned it before we came on the air, and I couldn't agree more. This team is not good enough to overcome self-inflicted wounds, and there were just too many of them. They had an opportunity in the first half with Dalvin Cook running well. Kirk Cousins, I thought, played a pretty good game. He didn't, for as hard as I've been on Kirk Cousins, I can't really blame him for anything as what happened today. I maybe a couple plays, a couple questionable throws after the Vikings were down, but I thought overall he ran the offense well. Dalvin Cook ran the ball hard in the first half. The Vikings defense, other than one big play and a really goofy pass interference penalty on a Hail Mary call, I think, played a relatively good first half. And yet they were down, 17-6 at halftime?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just don't have the talent in key areas, especially when you have guys like Eric Kendricks injured, to overcome a bunch of self-inflicted mistakes like some teams are capable of doing, and that's just what happened today. I mean, you make those mistakes, and yeah, it was Dan Bailey missing field goals too. Special teams has just been a tire fire all season, but you add that all up, and I'm literally the least surprised person in the world that the Vikings statistically dominated this game in many aspects, yet lost by more than 2.
Yeah, and let me try to, I guess, provide some context over what Ted just said, because it was perfect. Look, if you think of Dan Bailey's misses, the first one, extra point, nothing you can do there, but literally 2 plays before his first missed field goal, we've got Adam Thielen on a fade route, and he's literally inches away from completing an amazing one-handed catch for a touchdown to make that field goal attempt unnecessary. His second missed field goal, 2 plays before that play, we've got the play before, we've got Justin Jefferson contested catch right at the sticks. So it's literally, if we get unbelievable miracle type catches from our 2 best receivers, then yeah, we can overcome those Dan Bailey misses. But without just those perfect plays from our offense, we need the kicker to come through. There's 48 players who dress on Sunday. You need every single one of them to show up. Special teams has been an issue all year in different phases. It hasn't always been Dan Bailey, but it's just been snapping one game, punt returns the next, Dan Bailey the next time. It's a mess on special teams, and it has been all year. We can't treat this as just this one game anomaly from the special teams unit. That's the thing that they can't do. The takeaway has to be that the special teams have been terrible all season long.
They have. Chris
and y'all let me know how we find a kicker. I don't know how to find a kicker at this point. The Vikings have tried every damn thing. We've signed veteran kickers. We've drafted kickers. We've traded for kickers. I don't know if we're just never going to have a kicker. We just need to be
go for
better
2.
and all but special. Yeah, we need to go for 2.
Chris Gates said, and I agree with him, I can't even blame Kirk Cousins today. Kirk played well. There's a couple balls that weren't as nicely on target as I would like, and he held the ball a couple times. but for the most part, Kirk played outstandingly. It's not him.
Kirk was great. This is the most disheartening loss of the 2020 season, and it's because you look at Dalvin Cook and the offensive line, just warriors in the first half. That was an amazing defense they played today, and to run the ball like they did was unprecedented, unexpected, and it completely shifted the narrative of this game, where we came out saying, look, we're the better team. We can run on you. We can pass on you. Kirk Cousins started 8 for 8. He started with a great game. The defense, Cam Dantzler had an incredibly underrated game. A little things there, maybe 1 or 2 catches that he let up, but he played well. The linebackers played well. I mean, we had just great effort, great talent throughout the roster in this affair. And we had great coaching too. This was Kirk Cousins, his career high in rushing yards. The audacity to call designed runs for Kirk Cousins because
that QB draw was brilliant.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that play. That's brilliant.
Great call.
The way they're designing screen passes for Justin Jefferson, amazing, great play calling by both the offensive and defensive play callers. It was really great. It was literally just Dan Bailey and the referees. I hate to complain about the referees, but we played well today. And one of my main takeaways from this game is that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fucking suck. They're not Super Bowl contenders, and I'm pissed that we couldn't beat them today.
Drew, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Late in the game, when we're trying to play catch up, Kirk Cousins threw 2 passes to Dan Bailey and then lofted one way over Taje Sharpe, where I thought Taje was jogging. But why are we throwing to, I shouldn't say Dan Bailey, Chad Beebe. Why are we throwing to Beebe and Sharpe when the game's on the line instead of Jefferson and Thielen, or your tight ends who've done outstanding all day in Conklin and Irv Smith?
I think you're just trying to throw to the guy that might be open on the play. I didn't look, that deep into what exactly the scenario you were talking about. At that point, you're kind of just scrambling, and when you're scrambling, you're just throwing at bodies. I think they lost a little bit of their composure in the scenario that you're talking about. I don't know. The ball bounced off Beebe's hands, and I'm going. I see what you're saying. You got to go to your money, guys. But I think at that point, a couple things I'd like to point out. First off, Cousins played well. He ran for first downs. He played. Sure, he held the ball a couple times. Pisses me off his pocket presence a couple times, but the O-line just let him get killed today. The O-line was letting him get killed on a couple.
Yeah.
That play when he fumbled on, there was no fucking blocking on that play he fumbled on at all. And I'd like to point out that Courtney Cronenstadt that she had. The Vikings, that's the second time the Minnesota Vikings have had 39 plus time of possession and lost. The rest of the NFL, 0.
0.
There's your the Minnesota Vikings remarkable stat.
Yes.
Hey, I mean, it's
your
not
tidbit.
remarkable because there's literally 900 stats like that about the Minnesota Vikings.
And I pointed this out when we were watching it. When I was watching it with Ruby, I said, do you know how absolutely demoralizing it is to score, miss an extra point, continue to dominate, and then miss a field goal? That's 10 points. And then the other team scores a touchdown and goes up by 1 point. Not only to the players, to the coaches, how fucking demoralizing that is.
Mm-hmm.
You miss an extra point, you miss a field goal. They score once, and it's 7-6. You're behind. You're dominating the whole first half, and all of a sudden you're behind.
Oh, and then the pass interference at the end of the half on the Hail Mary, everybody's saying, "Oh, that's a 3-point swing." For the Bucs to get the ball after halftime and drive down the field and score, that didn't surprise anybody. Nobody was surprised by that because at that point they're saying our kicker sucks. The refs are killing us. There's nothing we can do to win this football game. That's just an attitude thing that happens. Should they be better and able to overcoming those situations? Man, it's really hard to say that based on what we know about this football team, based on what everybody who's injured. I mean, we know our offensive line can't pass block, especially when they're down by 2 scores. And that was an issue today. You know, the Buccaneers generated some pressure, only rushing 4, which was unexpected for them. Usually they blitz, but they sat back. That's kind of why we had to target Chad Beebe and Taje Sharpe, because the Buccaneers, Todd Bowles, smart defensive coordinator, rushed 4, made things a little more complex for Kirk Cousins in his reads, and that's how he generated pressures. And that's exactly how you beat the Minnesota Vikings. And everything just played right into Tampa Bay's hands in this one, especially when you give them the kicker help. You got basically number 5 in white is playing for the pewter team, the red team. How can you expect to overcome that? I will say my one gripe with all the referees and the penalties is, I think a lot of fans are going to talk about the Zebras and how they screwed us. And usually I say, F that, overcome it. Today, I will say I expect Mike Zimmer to be way more fired up when you're seeing those atrocious calls against your own football team when they're playing their hearts out. Like, if Mike Zimmer punches a ref in the face today, I'm okay with that, because that was
I would be too, but
we talked about it last week, how this isn't the same Mike Zimmer, how he's not as fired up, how his heart is a lot different from 2017. That call against Jeff Gladney, that call on the Hail Mary, Mike Zimmer, you better say something. You better say something and let these boys know that you got their back, rather than just sitting there behind that mask on the sidelines. And for that to happen, for that to be all, without controversy from our head coach, that's an issue. And I don't know what the solution there, but somebody on that Vikings team, on that Vikings head coaching staff, needs to say, fuck you, refs. That's the wrong call. We did not see that today. The announcers were more fired up than Mike Zimmer was, and that's a little disappointing.
Whether it be Gladney's supposed pass interference in the end zone, or the Hail Mary pass interference, or the Harrison Smith, ducked his head down bullshit call, or there's a myriad.
Not even those calls. I'm talking about Chad Beebe, your punt returner, is getting a helmet-to-helmet hit after he's down
and getting nothing.
You better say something if you don't think your player's getting protected.
Well, Kirk Cousins got hit in the head twice.
And what did Mike Zimmer do? Nothing.
Except
no
for one
flags.
For
Nobody's angry on our sidelines. Just, oh well. That bugs me. I'm going to be honest.
It bugs me too.
Go ahead, Drew.
No, I just wanted to throw out a little tidbit that's been the history of football forever. Nothing will teach you how to finish drives more in football than a shitty kicker. You got a bad kicker? I mean, let's face it, he missed all those kicks, but we should have been finishing those drives with touchdowns, and we weren't. So
yes.
Well,
put it in the end zone.
I had a basic epiphany today, and I don't know why it took so long. Do you know why we insist on running the football?
I mean, I do, but nobody listens to me, so go ahead.
We can't pass block worth a shit.
I've been saying it for like literally half a decade.
And when O'Neal went out with his injury, and they brought Samia in, and they swapped Dozier over, and the next play, you had Cleveland and Dozier and Samia all looking at each other going, as Kirk Cousins is peeling himself off the turf after getting killed, and it's just like,
details.
All that aside, and those are legitimate points, and I'm not saying the reffing, there were questionable calls, because there were. I mean,
there were. You
had that early kind of spearing on Chad Beebe on a punt return early in the game. You had a couple roughing the passer calls that, had they happened to Tom Brady, I'm pretty sure they would have been flagged. But at the end of the day, if Dan Bailey makes those kicks, that and the extra point, the Vikings on that last drive are driving for a game-winning field goal. They just are. And there were some things, just some fundamental things in that game, especially in the second half. That just kind of go to the overall. I don't want to say lack of preparation in this game necessarily, but lack of discipline that makes the Vikings not a good football team this year. There was one run Dalvin Cook made, and he got up and he started jawing with the defender. I think it was Levante David, but I can't remember. And he's jawing, and before you know it, there's less than 20 seconds left.
And they're going to call timeout, or they're going to
and the Vikings have to call timeout. And then on 4th in the football game, they break the huddle, and this is the game. This is the drive. They got to go down and score and hold Bucks 3 and out and get the ball back. And it's 4th in the ball game basically. And the 3 wide receivers look around and they ask each other, "What are we doing? What's the play?" And Cousins is trying to get guys lined up, and now you've got under 10 seconds left, and they have to call a timeout. Now you've screwed off. You've pissed away 2 timeouts, and even if they do go down and score, there's not a whole lot of time left, and they're going to have to get a quick 3 and out and get the ball back. And now they only have one. I mean, if things had worked out perfectly, they still would have been behind the 8 ball to go ahead and take the lead. And then and one of the reasons they were behind the 8 ball is because when they got the ball back in the third quarter, they went on like an 8 or 9 play, 10-minute scoring drive or whatever it was. 8 or 9 minute scoring drive, right. And you're down by a substantial amount at that point.
CJ Ham drive. We're down by 12. Let's go on a CJ Ham drive. Like what?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't mind CJ Ham. That worked. He had 3 good plays in a row. But
they needed to play. They needed to go no huddle and try and get yards and chunks.
Why aren't you speeding up the game at that time? Why aren't you changing up the speed of the game at that time? It's either because you can't, or 2 because you're stupid.
Yeah, no, but I mean, come on. We can't ask them to speed up the game, but also go into 2 running back sets like that. There's 2 things wrong there, not just one thing wrong.
And it comes back to my epiphany. They run the ball because they can't pass block.
I've been able to pass block since 2009, for God's sake.
As Chris Gates said. Yes.
Somebody said that. Yeah, was that Chris that said that?
That was Chris. The Grand Poobah himself.
Look, who makes the call on shifting into a no-huddle offense? Whose call is that? To pick up
Good question, Drew. Who is that?
No, Kubiak.
No, we can't do no huddle. We're not good at it. We can't do. We're not good at no huddle. Don't act like you're surprised.
No, I just asked the question. When you do go to no huddle, whose decision is that to go to no huddle from a standard pace?
Well, I mean, if Kirk calls Kubiak and he says, "Look, we need to go no huddle," that can happen. But if Kubiak is calling CJ Ham screen passes, what does that actually get you in the end? I mean, you have to be.
No, I'm not disputing that. Your head coach can say, "Pick up the fucking pace. Let's go."
Okay, are we good at no huddle? Are we good at no huddle?
We haven't seen it this season.
Flip. Okay. Whether the Vikings are good at no huddle, I mean, I don't know, because of the games I've seen this year, I haven't seen them run it. And whether they're good at it or not goes back to 2 things, in my opinion: coaching and play calling. I think now, I don't think you can go no huddle the whole game for an extended period of time throughout the season. But if you mix in a no huddle, was it Carla that said, mix in a no huddle here and there? The only way you're going to get good at doing something is by friggin' doing it. And I think the Vikings had an opportunity to get back in this game a lot quicker even after all the mistakes, and they still, with the coaching decisions, not to go no huddle and what have you. And it was just frustrating.
Ted, plus your no huddle. The no huddle doesn't have to only exclusively be used when you're behind either. No huddle can be used to jumpstart your team and jumpstart your offense. You don't have to do it when you're behind.
But what you do with no huddle is you settle on the personnel you want on the field for that no huddle offense. And so what the Vikings do is they've been very good at exchanging personnel to keep the defense guessing. So when you go no huddle, you're saying that, look, Tyler Conklin, you're on the field for this entire drive, or Chad Beebe, you're on the field for this entire drive, or CJ Ham. And that's why the Vikings are hesitant to go no huddle, because they don't have that 11 personnel, that 3 wide receiver set that makes sense for the no huddle. And that's what I'm trying to say.
I would argue they do. Even with Kyle Rudolph all today, I would argue they do. You could have gone. Beebe can catch the ball. You got Beebe, Thielen. I mean, look. I mean, he's a guy. I mean, he's just a guy. But he could have been out there. And so you've got Thielen, Jefferson, Beebe, Olabisi Johnson isn't horrible. Dalvin Cook. I mean, look, they had to do something other than what they're doing. And if I'm kind of getting irritated here, because I feel a lot of this goes back to coaching preparation.
Yeah,
find guys throughout the season that you can utilize in a 2-minute huddle, whether it's splitting CJ Ham in the slot. I don't know. Use a dump off. I don't care. But
no, that's my point. Is like if you don't have Chad Beebe. If Chad Beebe's not your third wide receiver, then of course you've got a guy who goes no huddle. But to go for 5 years without having a legitimate third wide receiver, it limits your ability to run no huddle.
Yeah, but they could have gone with our 2 Jefferson, Thielen, Irv, and Conklin, and they still could have run the ball, or they could have passed the ball with that set in that entire 2 minutes. And all they would have to do is call the plays at the line of scrimmage. And they didn't.
Tyler Conklin was our second leading. Tyler Conklin finished second in targets today, and we scored, what 14 points? I mean, come on, guys. We don't have a race car offense. I've been saying it all year long. We fall behind by 2 scores, and the game is over. You can complain about how that failed comeback looks for all you want, but they don't have the race car offense to get us back from 2 scores down. The point is, don't go 2 scores down in the first place.
Fair point, but it's going to happen, and you have to have the ability to answer. And I think in a short burst, 1 or 2 drives, they have the personnel to do that. But they chose, for whatever reason, whether they have the personnel or don't have the personnel, it seems like we're arguing a moot point, because they didn't use the 2-minute offense. They chunked 9 minutes of game clock to get back to score a touchdown.
And a 2-minute offense
Then get a staff that can build you a 2-minute offense. For fuck's sake,
exactly.
Come on, you can't just throw your hands in the air and say, "Well, we're not good at it. We're not good at it, so we got to just be not good at it." Well, let's figure out a way to get the people involved that'll make decisions to make us be better at it. I mean,
a 2-minute offense is something you usually practice in every practice during the week.
And they're like, "Wow, we suck."
So there should be people to run the 2-minute offense. Is my point. But there's not.
No.
So it goes back to the coaching.
We're not going to agree on it.
No, never goes on the coaching. It's not on that. It's not on Zimmer. We don't want to start in on that.
Look, I already criticized Zimmer in my own way, Drew. I'm sorry you want Chad Beebe catching 9 balls a game.
I don't.
But
when did I mention Chad Beebe's fucking name? When did I say anything about Chad Beebe catching 9 balls? I don't want that guy anywhere near the field. I just said Chad Beebe get on a fucking plane with Dan Bailey and they can go circle jerk themselves. I can give a shit.
Go to Gitmo. There's got to be room at Gitmo for both of them, isn't there?
I'm saying I'm sick of being on the outside looking in. We may not be good at this or that. Then we're just going to have to deal with not being good at this or that. Let's make the strides to get a staff or whatever, to get the personnel to make us good at that, whatever that may be, instead of dragging our fucking feet through the sloth every week and having the same mistakes the reason we lost today, Made the same mistakes we made the last month, but we weren't playing Carolina, Jacksonville, or Dallas. That's why we didn't lose. That's why we lost.
How do I do it? Is this
We're playing a better team. You can't make fucking mistakes every game. Mistake. Stop. That's why you lost the game. It's details. It's mistakes. The same shit as it was last week. The Vikings
100% agree.
It's frustrating.
Yeah.
It's frustrating because the Vikings ran the ball. Good game plan. Cousins played well. They moved the ball. They had it all covered, except they found a way to lose because of the dumb mistakes. Stop with get your team disciplined and stop with the mistakes. And you know what? Flip's right. That fucking call, Zimmer should have been out there throwing his headset and choking that fucking ref. Who cares if he gets kicked out of the game? Show it. Yeah. Show the rest of your team that, man, look at our coach is fired up, isn't he? Look at our coach. You gotta stand. You gotta get on it, dude. Get on it.
I mentioned this in I think the pregame or a couple shows ago, and it goes back to that late hit on Teddy Bridgewater in 2015, I think, against the Rams. Knocked Teddy out, literally knocked him out. He was unconscious on the field, and Zimmer was losing his mind, absolutely losing his mind on the sidelines. Yes, and I said at the end of the game, if Zimmer grabbed his coaching staff and his players and he said, square up on somebody because I'm going to punch Jeff Fisher as soon as we get to midfield, and then it's on, and then it's go time.
Yeah.
Where's that Mike Zimmer? Because he wasn't there today, because you had that cheap shot on Beebe, I think, on the punt return early in the first quarter. You had a couple roughing the passer calls that weren't made on Kirk Cousins. You had that Gladney pass interference that nullified his interception, which would have been an unbelievable interception. I think that was a kind of a ticky-tack call, and that PI, somebody said that was like the first PI call in the NFL on a Hail Mary since 2009. I mean, if I'm Zimmer, if nothing else, I'm losing my mind to the point where I'm getting thrown out of the game after about the third or fourth call. And I'm going to tell somebody right before. I'm going to tell somebody on the sidelines. I don't know who, one of the assistant coaches. Look, I'm going to go get myself thrown out. Just like in Bull Durham, where they had that scene where I'm going to get. And you call every coach, you call the referee, everything,
Hoosiers.
whatever it is. Yeah. There you go, Hoosiers. And you do everything you can, and I'm telling you that fires up a team. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. And even if
absolutely
they lose,
fires up the team.
Even if they lose, at least they know our coach has our back. And you raise enough of a stink on the sideline, and human beings are human beings. Referees are going to get hesitant to throw a flag because they don't want to hear your garbage from coming from the sideline. They're just going to say, I don't want to hear him yell. I'm not going to call it. It's not worth it.
I mean, the Saints instituted a terrible ass instant replay rule for an entire season in the NFL because they rose a stink. And our coach won't do that. If I am Mike Zimmer, I am raising hell. I'm dropping bows. I'm getting kicked out of that game. And worst case scenario, I'm being all the Monday morning media outlets are like, oh, why is Zimmer so angry? He's angry because the fucking referees suck. Okay, so you look at this game and you know this game is bullshit because my team they're taking hits to the head, which is illegal, and no other team is dealing with that. In a COVID year where my guys are scrapping, where I've got 3 cornerbacks out and 2 linebackers out and a defensive end out, fuck this shit to pile more shit on my team. I'm throwing a fucking fit. That's the fucking passion we need. And Zimmer had that. That's the saddest part is Mick Zimmer had that passion. He had it.
And now it looks like on the sidelines he was just walking up to the ref going, hey, I respectfully disagree on that call. I don't think that was a fair call. Would you think about maybe not making that call the next time? And it just kind of going on his merry way. Yeah,
that'll scare him.
So I don't know.
And this is Chad Beebe. Like, imagine if this hit had happened to Thielen or Jefferson, how angry I would be. This is just Chad Beebe. He was like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's a combination. And going back to Drew's point about the Vikings just making mistakes, again, that just goes back to not being disciplined. I mean, you can't blame the coaching staff. Well, maybe the kicking coach for Dan Bailey not missing all those field goals and kicks.
But what actual mistakes did they make?
Well, I kind of went over them. You had Cook just kind of mentally losing his situational awareness with that stupid John with the defense and forcing a timeout. The wide receivers breaking the huddle, going, "Whoa, what are we doing?" Having to call a timeout. You had a couple questionable play calls. Again at the end of the first half.
90% of it is a kicker.
Well, I'm not talking about the kicks. Again at the end of the first half, you had just under a minute. But you still had a timeout. I think a couple of at least deep throws to try and get some chunk yardage and see if you can set up for a field goal, and maybe get Bailey's confidence back. Would it have worked? I probably not the way he was kicking today, but you at least try. And the Vikings ran with Amir Abdullah for like 3 yards and had to waste one of their timeouts. The situational awareness of both the coaching staff and some of the players and the discipline with, some dumb penalties at really stupid times. It's just a continuous theme all year. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too critical.
Freddie asks, is 9-7 good enough to make the playoffs? That
no, they're not going to go 9-7. No.
Freddie, we have a Monday night show featuring yours truly that will go over playoff odds. But, we're under 500, so I don't really feel like talking about it now.
It's down to 1-4. This loss today killed any realistic hope of the Vikings going to the postseason. And they still got to go down to New Orleans.
We have a 23% chance. We have a 23% chance of making the playoffs right now.
They would have to win out.
God,
So y'all tell me what the solutions are, either this year or the next year. Y'all tell me what the solutions are, because I feel like Vikings fans are just gonna walk away from this game and be like, "Oh, if we had a good kicker, we would have won." But honestly, there's a lot more to improve on. So,
go ahead, Drew.
I just agree that's what I was just gonna say is what Flip just said. So I appreciate you saying that, because I don't have to say it now.
What did you think of the defense?
There's a lot involved. There's a lot to details. There could be some really tiny details. There details across the board. Nobody's gonna play a perfect game, but you got to be able to, like Bud Grant says, you got to be able to make a few more bigger plays than the other team. Who cares what the refs are refs, and you got to find a way to just get over the top and win some of these games. I'm watching a game. I'm watching the Vikings play, and I'm thinking, wow, we're playing pretty good. And I look at the score, and it's 17-6. And I'm thinking, my God, they are not playing like they should be down 17-6. What is going on? And it's just like, I don't know. It's frustrating. What do they need to clean up? They got a lot to clean up. But for the rest of the season, I don't know. I don't know if they...
Question to you, Drew. What did you think of the defense in that first quarter and a half?
You know what? The one thing that they had going for him is Brady started this game off like shit. He was overthrowing his receivers. He looked terrible. Matter of fact, he threw a pass that was like out in the flat to Ronald Jones, and it looked like a baby horse in the air. It was all fluttery and shitty, and it went over his head, and I go, that looks like the worst pass I've ever seen Brady throw. Do you remember what it was?
Ducks.
It was like Oh, yeah. It was like a wounded duck with one wing. It was horrible. And I'm thinking, and he missed a couple slant routes, and he missed a deep in cut, and he was overthrowing guys early. We had it right where we wanted to have him in the first quarter and a half. We did. Brady was off his mark, and that was our chance to, build a lead or whatever. And I think that, they attempted to do that, but I think the Vikings had a good game plan in this one. And for as many shitty plays as they call, like Ted with the Abdullah thing, which I didn't get, they have some good play calls, some really good play calls at opportune times. Like the 2-yard, the pass to Jefferson for the conversion. That was a great call. So as many as they have bad ones. They just, they do have some good calls. It's just, it's right straight down the board. The Vikings need to go back to the fundamentals. And I don't know whether in the last 3 weeks what you're going to do. You're going to play it out, but in the offseason, they got to break it all down and get back to the fundamentals of football and the details, the situational practicing where you're practicing. All right, guys, 3rd and 6 from the 7-yard line. What are we going to do? And situational practices where you're practicing actual plays. I think they got to get back to their roots. And I don't know whether if that's with Zimmer or whatever, whoever the coach is, they have to get back to, all right, let's settle this thing down. Let's build it again. And maybe that'll take care of some of the mistakes. I don't know, but it's frustrating.
Well, it's time for me to stir up some shit. Wow, here we go. So let's talk about this Minnesota Vikings defense, because 26 points allowed. I don't think anybody's surprised. We need to remember a few things. We need to remember that the Vikings were 1-4, and they made an incredibly short-sighted decision because the Vikings could really use a defensive end right now. The same defensive end that they traded for, they gave away a 2nd-round pick to get this defensive end, Yannick Ngakoue, on the team. Yannick Ngakoue would have been really nice today. He would have been really nice. And you know what? I'm going to talk about the other defensive end too, because nobody's heard from Danielle Hunter. They made an early season call to shut him down because we thought this team wouldn't be competitive. Well, you have Danielle Hunter and Yannick Ngakoue. If they're both healthy, I'm not saying play them if they're injured, but if those guys, if Danielle Hunter is at home right now healthy and he's watching his 6-6 Vikings down by 11 points in the second half, he could be on the field and he could be making a difference. So, the Vikings had a chance to say, are we competing this year or are we not competing this year? And they made a choice to not compete. So we shouldn't be surprised when they don't compete, because those two moves, they matter.
They matter a lot. And I'll tell you what else matters. Carla here brought up a couple points, and one of them was start Brett Jones at left guard, I think it was, or Brett Jones over somebody.
She did.
And this is one of my
overdoses.
This is one of my pet peeves. Yeah, this is one of my pet peeves with Mike Zimmer. He has it appears. I'm not in the locker room. I don't know this, firsthand. But it just seems Mike Zimmer has guys who are in his perpetual doghouse. And I think they could. Would Brett Jones be an all-pro? I doubt it. But
Dakota Dozier was bad.
He couldn't be any worse than Dakota Dozier, could he?
Now, the problem with Brett Jones is, and it's demonstrable, and it's on tape, and you can see it. Brett Jones cannot get to the second level. Dakota Dozier can. Brett Jones is the better pass blocker.
Dozier. No, we're not defending Dakota Dozier.
I'm not. I'm just saying that's what they're seeing as the offensive line coach.
Well, then they're idiots.
And how they call plays. It's because their playbook calls for the guards to get to the second level. Jones cannot do that consistently. Dozier can do it better than Jones.
At this point, I don't care, because the Vikings, us four and one other guy, could pass block better than the guys that were on the Vikings offensive line today.
Dude, Dozier is bad, bro. Dozier is really, really bad.
And Drew and I already have the jerseys. We'll bring our own jerseys, for God's sakes. I mean, come on. There's a point in time where you have to say, I have run this horse enough, and he's not going to win the race, and I got to go with somebody else. And I don't know why they're running Dakota Dozier. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I don't know why Ezra Cleveland's playing guard. I mean, I don't care if Brett Jones gets to the -2 level on a run, because Dalvin Cook will break 2 tackles to get to the second level. Or here's an idea: just run it to the other side of wherever Brett Jones is playing, because the Vikings just play musical chairs on the offensive line anyways. Just give the ball to Dalvin Cook and let him go whoop, and then I'm gonna go whoop, and then he's like 12 yards downfield. Whoop. I'm just so done with this. We're not going to play guys I don't like because I don't like them, because that seems to be a common refrain of Mike Zimmer in the last couple of years, and I don't understand it. Now, he's running guys out there that probably can't play. I think another comment by Carla was the cornerback, Chris Jones. Was it Chris Jones? What's that guy's name? He's
Jones.
terrible.
Yeah.
He's hot garbage. I think the Vikings are just flat out of guys right now. They got to play
take
somebody.
Chris Jones 10 times out of 10 out of Dakota Dozier. And we don't have anybody behind Chris Jones.
Put Chris Jones at left guard. Let's see. Let's go. Let's play
Chris
football.
Jones is a corner.
Chris Jones at left guard. I'm honest, man. I'm honest. The solutions and that's the thing is I mean Chris Jones.
The corner.
I mean Chris Jones. Yes.
The lousy corner. Chris Boyd is better than Chris Jones.
Know when you suck a position and do
Put Chris Everett at left guard.
Fix it. Put Chris Jones at left guard. And that's what we see. I guarantee you, next week, Dakota Dozier is going to be starting. Why? What have you seen in the last 3 months that means Dakota Dozier should start? No, bench the motherfucker. Bench him.
At least go look at other practice squads to see if there's guys with the attitude.
Don't look. Give him the Pat Elflein treatment and get him off the field.
Chris Gates, Chris Jones at left guard, Brett Jones at corner. Done. Amen. Let's go. What do you got, Drew?
What?
Chris Jones.
I just want to know why we can't build an offensive line. Why can't we do it? I've asked it so many times I don't know what to say.
It's anymore. The same reason why we can't get a kicker, Drew. It's just we have to be good at the things we're great at. We have to be great at the things we're good at, and just look. The Vikings aren't making a playoff run with a dependable kicker. That's never going to happen. Every Vikings fan knows it. So, honestly, the damn Bailey misses, it's just a part. I'm just our kicker is sucking.
I've been hearing complaints from the fans about the offensive line since Teddy was here. Why is it still a problem? Is it that hard to? I mean, the Colts turned theirs around in 2 seasons?
No. And that's look, offensive lines across the NFL are just down. We have a trend where defenses are moving. A lot of the Dakota Dozier issues today was because Todd Bowles was moving Jason Pierre-Paul on the inside against the weak link in our offensive line. So defensive coordinators have been doing that for 3 to 4 years now, where interior defensive pressure is a thing. And the only way to combat that interior defensive pressure is to get either a mobile quarterback or to have the best offensive line in the league. So I think the Vikings are building for a 1990s type offense where they just need to say, look, if you want a functioning offense with Kirk Cousins, then your receivers don't matter. The guy's going to throw the ball to Tyler Conklin and Chad Beebe, and the receivers don't matter as much as having the best offensive line possible will matter. And that's what the Vikings are missing. They're trying to build an offense outside of the times. So that's why the offensive line sucks, is because they're built for a different era.
Dave,
that's a good point. Hey,
Dave, real quick, Dave, I 100% agree with you. I think the Vikings focus more with their offensive linemen on guys that can run block better than they can pass block. I do.
Yep.
Because I think they're having a hard time finding guys that can pass block, and they don't find coaches that teach offensive line attitude. The whole idea about playing on an O-line or a D-line, and I've done it, is that you go out there and you beat your guy every single time. You may not win every single play, but you're going to go 100% every single play to beat him the entire game. You take pride on that. And I don't see that with any of the offensive line coaches we've had since Zimmer's come on board. Now, Zimmer doesn't like the offense, period. He wants to stick with his defense. Zimmer makes a mistake by not caring about his offense and signing guys that actually gave a shit, whether it be Mike Tice a while ago, but Mike Tice wanted to change the verbiage and he said no, or anybody else. You've got to find people that play offense, especially in the trenches, with the attitude that they're going to go out and win every single play, and he doesn't do that. And that is his fatal flaw, as I spittle all over the place.
You know, I'm not going to criticize. I'm not
going
to criticize because Dave,
that's the Dave I want to see right there.
Yeah,
that's
he just criticized Mike Zimmer. He just criticized Mike Zimmer, which is this is a step. This is a step in the healing process.
Yes, I'm a Zimmer alcoholic.
It is. Flip is exactly right. It's the first step in a long healing process.
Do we have
reality?
For this?
I can do this.
I do have to disagree with. So Vikes.
What the hell?
But Vikings fans right now are really critical about our offensive line, and I just want everyone to know that our offensive line isn't that bad. The problem is they're blocking for a less mobile quarterback than is the norm in the NFL right now. Like, our offensive line isn't any better or worse than the Cardinals' offensive line. Our offensive line isn't any better or worse than the Patriots' offensive line. Our offensive line isn't any better or worse than the Chiefs' offensive line. The mobile quarterback, I mean, look at the Eagles. They literally moved from an immobile quarterback to a mobile quarterback. Several reasons, because Carson Wentz is that's an issue. But when you have a bad offensive line, the easiest fix is not to replace all 5 linemen. The easier fix is to just get a quarterback who can scramble.
It's a really good point. That's a huge point because awesome. a lot of those plays when the pocket collapses, if you have a mobile guy, he's out of there. He is out of there before it even collapses. So that is a very good point by Flip. And
Ted, see, the thing is, Kirk did that today.
Thank you
Kirk
for
did do
Chris
that
Everett.
Today.
Chris Everett's been in my mind the last 22 minutes. You said Chris Everett. It's been in my mind for the last 22 minutes. Black Swan, baby. 1976, Black Swan. Swan, baby.
Both Dave and Flip brought up fantastic points. Dave, that might have been the best speech you've ever given on this show. Either the pregame show or this.
I think it was.
Flip, you're absolutely right. Flip, you're absolutely right. If the Vikings are gonna sacrifice size, if they're not gonna have nasty dudes, and like Anthony Herrera and Dave Dixon were those nasty dudes that I just loved. They just played kind of above their talent level, but would just bite and kick you in the junk and kind of cleat you in the face. They would do whatever they had to do to win their battle on every single play. And the Vikings
Jimmy
don't
Kleinsaucer pancaking defensive tackles and defensive ends. That's how an offensive lineman's supposed to play.
Yep.
And he was a tight end, but I digress.
Still an offensive lineman that catches balls.
But here's my question: are you willing to give up?
Are you going to have?
Are you willing to give up Adam Thielen to get that? Are you willing to give up?
At this point, yes.
I'm willing to give up Chad Beebe.
Oh hell yes!
Are you willing to give up? Are you willing to give up Irv Smith Jr. to get that? Because that's what it's going to take. Is you're going to have to go away from the skill positions and prioritize offensive line. So
now this is where you have a point, Flip. This is where a GM has to value. Where do we go with the assets that we have to spend to make the team better? And right now, they're focusing on skill positions versus the guys on the front line. What I'm saying
for any quarterback but Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, and I can understand that. But what I also say is that a coach or coaches, series thereof, offensive line all the way up to the head coach, can instill an attitude, even if you've got Brett Jones that sucks at getting to the second level, or Dakota Dozier that fucking can't wipe his ass, that at least they play with the attitude that they're going to try to beat the defender on every single play. That instilling of an attitude in this team and over this regime is missing.
Triple arm slap. But you know what, Dave, to your point, that attitude comes when you see your head coach going fucking crazy, angry over bad calls.
That helps. That helps.
That has a lot to do with it.
That sure as fuck helps. Yes.
That's how you build that grit, that anger, that attitude from your coach. Look at some of those sideline rants when Phil Simms comes over and opens his mouth to Bill Parcells. He puts him in his place real fucking fast.
Well, you remember the Raiders of old.
Let me coach the
and
team.
How they would want to sit there and be rabid on the sideline with fucking drool hanging down because they wanted to kill the guy across from them. You've got to have that sort of attitude when you're, as soon as that hut is heard, you got to go.
It's
That's
here.
What
like,
rebuilding in the offseason.
Okay.
That's what I was getting at. Off-season.
Ted,
That's what I was getting at. Ted, I'll give Ted the floor, but that's what I was getting at.
Yeah. So who sets that tone?
I mean, Zimmer does, and like people, all the media members used to cry when Zimmer wouldn't shake their hand. Oh, he didn't shake the coach's hand at the end of the game. Man, fuck that. That's the Zimmer I want. That's the Zimmer I want. And if
let's be the bad guy. Why can't we be the bad guy?
If there was a game to get upset about today or this season, what game makes more sense for Zimmer to throw a fucking fit than this game? This is a game. This is a game where everything's in the line. This is a game where if we lose, 23% chance of making the playoffs. If we win, 71% chance. So this is the most important game of the season. You're playing a big-time opponent. You've got 50-50 fans. You got Vikings fans who have flown down to make this trip. You know you need to win this game. Your guys are getting hit in the head. And you do nothing. This is fired up Mike Zimmer. This is when we see it.
So, okay, if I may ask a question then. If Mike Zimmer, if 2015 Mike Zimmer isn't, 2015 Mike Zimmer after Teddy Bridgewater got knocked out, Mike Zimmer, if he's not going to show up today when essentially your season's on the line, you go from a 3-4 chance of making the playoffs to a 1-4 chance of making the playoffs. If he's not going to show up today, then is he going to show up? Is he gone forever? Is he coming back? And if he's not coming back, is he the guy to lead this team into the future?
That is a fucking great. That's the best question of the day right there.
It's just like, it pisses me off because I just think it's like a different media era where people have, like, when Mike Zimmer was getting fired up like we wanted him to, and he was hard on his teammates, on his players, and pissing people off, the media had an issue with it, and they were criticizing him for it. And so I think Zimmer has actually adjusted to be quote unquote softer because of that. And I just don't know whether that's going to work in this modern era. I think he doesn't know what to do. I think he's literally sitting there pissed, but not. He thinks like if I vocalize how angry I am, then that's going to have an adverse reaction, and that actually it makes me angry because I'm allowed to get pissed on this podcast every single week, and I wish Mike Zimmer would do that because I know he has that fire in him. He's just trying to use it appropriately.
I don't think the Mike Zimmer at 2014, 15, and into 16 cared if the media was.
Yeah. No,
exactly.
I don't think he did either. But I think he got slapped with enough fines and reprimands and whatever. But speaking of fines and reprimands,
and reprimanded him.
Speaking of all that and passion, we have gotten some great viewer response today, and you guys joining us from Jerome to Carla to Mary to Ryan to Freddie to everybody who I missed, the Grand Poopah, everybody. And if you like this sort of content and you love us going at it, especially after a Vikings game like that,
I'm a king of going at it.
Make sure you
you're
hit
talking
the
about the
like
show.
button,
That's what your mom told me last night.
the subscribe button per Ted's
Sorry.
mom,
I'm so sorry.
I don't even.
and
I don't
ring
even
the
make my own
damn
content
bell
anymore. I
for
just use the
notifications to
comments
get
on
more.
We are horrible.
Like Freddie, Cliff, Mary, whatever y'all want to. Yo, Ted, nobody talks about moral victories. Come on, we don't think about those.
He
Whatever
does
y'all want
that
me
to get
talk
you
about,
wild up.
I'm wild up.
I
That's
don't
for
know
sure.
Why
Well
does
done.
Ted Bertrand always put my name in the moral? I'm the last moral victory guy on the planet. Why does he? Put
Because
my
he
fucking
knows you get spun up
Piss
with
you
that.
off.
Come on,
Are we-
dude.
are we
Pick
still in the
somebody else?
playoffs?
I could give a shit less about moral victories, man.
Yo,
That's
I don't-
why he
I don't
does
think
it.
we're-
I
don't
would
think we're in the
like to say
playoffs
real
anymore.
quick on top of what Dave just said. The viewers that come on the show, the active people that are making
Hear
all
you?
these comments, is the smartest group of people I've ever seen commenting on any
Yeah.
show at all.
Sharpe
All of
punch
you
never
are
doubt
amazingly,
yourself.
really.
Y'all are
All of you
amazing.
are knowledgeable. You got the knowledge. You make it funny. You make it interesting. I find myself staring at the screen and not listening to Dave.
Mhm.
Here, you guys take my spot because you're way smarter than I am.
No.
Oh wow! No, please don't do that, Ted.
No, Ted, your jokes are pretty damn good.
Yeah.
There's only one
Freddie-
Smitty, man. There's
Freddie
only
to
one
answer-
Smitty.
You can't
Go ahead.
cut Dan Bailey. You can't cut Dan Bailey. You got to
No.
live with him.
No, you got to live with him the rest of the season.
Yep, I agree.
There's no, I mean, you pull in, it's a waste to, even if you thought you found somebody at the 7-Eleven, it's a waste. You got to live with Bailey. Get him that sports psychologist. Get him that fucking kicking coach. And if it was the kicking coach that caused this, he needs to be fired tomorrow.
Will the Vikings go 9-7? Will they win their 3 last games to streak into the playoffs?
I'm going no.
No. Ted says no. Drew?
No.
Dave?
Of course they will. They'll do it to
Okay.
spin up our emotions and then kill it in the first game of the playoffs. Yeah,
Dave,
they
I love
will.
your eternal optimism. I absolutely love it. And I'm
Yeah,
not even-
they're going to
I'm
go
not even
in.
kidding.
It's Christmas Day. Hey, join us, everybody, after the game on Christmas Day
Whoa!
when we
Wait,
go
wait,
down
wait. I'm
to
recording
Minnesota
on
or down to New Orleans and beat their ass once again and spoil their Christmas. We'll be here 15 minutes after the game, as usual, for Good Morning Gallahorn in the Raw.
So Bailey, real quick on Bailey. The one thing I would say, I can't remember. I'm already old and I can't remember who asked the question. But do you keep Bailey? Yes, you keep Bailey through this year. The one thing I hope they don't do, and he's got 3 games left or whatever it is to figure it out. What I hope they don't do is
Plus the playoffs.
what they did with Blair Walsh. Is I think they kept Blair Walsh too long to try and get him to see if he could figure things out. If they're gonna fish or cut bait with Dan Bailey, I hope they make their decision at the end of the year, right when the season's over, and go from there. If Bailey kind of rights the ship and he aces the rest of his kicks and his field goals, okay, fine, whatever. But I just don't want the Vikings to let this linger like they did with Blair Walsh.
I'm curious how much
That's
money
what I
we'd
was
lose
thinking.
cutting
Ted,
Bailey.
that's not happening. Dan Bailey will be in 2021 training camp. Look, I think I need to remind everyone, they tried to replace Dan Bailey, and everybody got pissed.
Vedvik.
Everybody got, with Vedvik. They tried to replace Dan Bailey with Vedvik. Everybody hated that move. Okay, and the last time they cut a guy right after he had a bad game was Dan Carlson, and he's a Pro Bowl kicker now.
Yeah,
There's
dude
no
hasn't missed a kick since
solution.
he got cut by the
It's
Vikings.
like it's literally the best tweet I saw, and I don't refer to Twitter very often because I think it's
Vikings.
but somebody was like, look, the Vikings jersey is like a cursed amulet that the kicker has to put on once they arrive in Minnesota. Like, it doesn't matter
That's good.
how good you were when
That's
you're wearing
good.
that amulet. There's a lot of fucking negative shit that happens. So we need
Thanks,
some Harry Potter Scar type motherfucker to come in and just fucking stab that amulet. I don't know what it is. We might have to change colors before we get a good kicker.
All right, I think we've gone too far when we're using Harry Potter references in a post game. With that, we've been over an hour. Ted, last call.
Ironically, I'm watching the Harry Potter series with my grandsons right now, and I can't wait to roll out Harry Potter and the Goblet of Wide Left tonight after the show. Skull White, let's go.
Flip.
Hey, we got CJ Ham, baby. We got more ham than we could ever wish for. And that's always a good thing.
Drew, you get to wrap it up tonight.
David, I was bummed about this loss, and then I got to come in and finally see you go off on a rant. So you turned my whole day around, buddy. You turned my whole day around with your first step on the long road back from Zimmerism.
I'm a Zimmerholic, and I admit
You're
it.
Zimmerholic today. Like Flip said, it's your first step back. So I'm almost tearing up right here, man. I'm just so proud of him. I'm so proud of him.
I admitted I was powerless over Mike Zimmer love. Mike Zimmer, that is program, baby. Let's go.
That has turned my day around, David. So thank you.
With that, we conclude Vlogmas Day 13, our 13th live show from the Club in the Pocket Network, half of which are GMG related. We resume tomorrow night during halftime with the one and only 15 Minutes with Flip Mozzie.
Wait, 13 is an odd number, so you can't be halfway through is all I'm saying.
Well, no, we're progressive, but you're right.
Sorry,
I'm wrong. Hey, whatever.
That guy, I'm sorry.
But tomorrow night, Flip joins
go.
me in halftime of the Monday Night Football game for 15 Minutes with Flip Mozzie, and we continue this great content. And for everybody else, please like, subscribe, ring the bell, and share with your friends, because this is the best Vikings content on the internet. Skol Vikings! Let's win at least some games.
I love y'all in the comments. Freddie, Mary, Ted. Yo, Darian saying Justin Tucker would suck ass if he played for the Vikings. Spot on. Love y'all.
See y'all.
Dash box. This is my stash box I built. Pretty nice, isn't it?
Oh, it's not working.
See you guys.
He don't even know how to end the show anymore.
Try to end the show, but the button's not working.
You see.
Thank you for watching or listening. As always, if you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And if you're listening to the podcast, please rate us on your favorite aggregator. Skol, everybody.